Sometimes the biggest stories start in the smallest places. On the surface, this is just about a single house on a quiet street in Aptos, California. But what started as a simple permit application for a vacation rental, well, it spiraled into something way bigger. We're talking about a fight that really gets to the heart of tensions between a community, property rights, and the rules that are supposed to govern everything. So let's break down exactly what happened.
This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's from the couple living right next door to the house in question. They've been there for 38 years. They raised their kids there. And that one sentence just perfectly captures the personal stakes here. For them, this isn't about regulations or zoning codes. It's about the feeling of being home and the fear of losing it.
So what was the spark that lit this whole fire? Well, it all kicks off in the Rio Del Mar Upper Cliffs neighborhood, where one new plan was about to bring an entire community together in a way they never expected.
Here's the inciting incident. The owners of 519 Townsend Drive file an application with the county. The plan seems simple enough. Turn their three-bedroom house into a short-term rental, for stays of 30 days or less. This one piece of paper would become the flashpoint for the whole neighborhood. Now, to really get why this caused such an uproar, you have to picture this place. This is not some tourist trap. Based on dozens of emails from residents, this is a super tight-knit community. People have lived here for decades. The streets are narrow, there are no sidewalks, no lane markings. It's the kind of place where kids play in the street and seniors take their daily walks. So the idea of dropping a commercial business right in the middle of it all, to them it felt like it would change the fundamental character of their home.
And let me tell you, the neighborhood didn't just grumble about it. Oh, no. Their response was fast, it was organized, and it was, well, you're about to see just how big it was.
128. That number pretty much says it all. In less than a week, a petition to deny the permit got 128 signatures. This clearly wasn't just one or two unhappy neighbors. This was a massive, coordinated community pushback.
And her petition laid out some really specific arguments. This wasn't just a vague, not in my backyard complaint. They raised very practical concerns. Everything from public safety on those narrow streets, to potential noise, to losing another long-term house in an already tight housing market. And a huge fear? Having absentee owners who wouldn't be around to handle problems when they inevitably came up.
And this quote right here, it just brings the whole safety issue to life, doesn't it? This isn't some abstract worry about traffic. A resident, Dina Janjinian, describes this elderly couple who needs to use the flat street to walk safely. All the long-term residents know this. They watch out for them. The fear is that a constant stream of vacationers who don't know the neighborhood's rhythms would be a direct threat to them.
So, with all this public opposition, this huge petition, what did the county actually decide? Well, this is where the story takes a sharp turn. Away from community passion and into the world of cold, hard, bureaucratic procedure.
And here is the absolute crux of it. County planners don't really weigh public opinion against the law. Their job is to apply the rules exactly as they're written on the books. And according to their official report, this application simply checked all the necessary boxes. They even noted that losing long-term housing was not a substantive issue that the county currently regulates.
Now, that's not to say they completely ignored the public's concerns. They did try to address them by adding specific conditions to the permit. So for traffic, they banned guest parking on the street. For enforcement, they made the owner the 24-hour contact who has to respond within an hour. And for noise, they set strict quiet hours. And so, despite the 128 signatures and all those letters, the county planner administratively approved the permit. But, and this is a big but, this was not the end of the story. The approval came with a critical 14-day window for anyone to file an appeal. And you better believe the residents used that window. The fight was about to shift gears, moving from a public opinion campaign to a formal legal challenge. They were now arguing that the county didn't just ignore them, it actually made critical errors applying its own rules. So the Concerned Neighbors Group officially files their appeal. But this time, they weren't just talking about their feelings or concerns. They were targeting three very specific points where they believed the county got the facts and the law flat out wrong.
All right, so their first argument is fascinatingly specific. The county code is crystal clear. The property manager, who can be the owner, has to be located within 30 miles of the rental. Why? To make sure they can meet that mandatory 60-minute response time if any issues pop up.
Now, the county staff report claims the owner, who lives in San Jose, totally meets this rule. It calculates the distance at about 22 miles, well inside the limit.
But pay very close attention to that one little word they use: radius.
And here it is. This is the evidence the neighbors submitted in their appeal. This image shows exactly how the county got its number. They measured the distance as the crow flies, a straight line, right over the Santa Cruz Mountains. But of course, nobody can actually drive in a straight line from San Jose to Aptos.
So what's the real number? The number the neighbors came back with after, checking Google Maps? 41.1. That's 41.1 miles, which is well outside the 30-mile limit required by the code.
And this is the heart of their legal argument. They're asking a simple, common-sense question. Does a 60-minute response time depend on an imaginary straight line, or the actual roads you have to drive on? They argue that the whole point of the rule, the ability to respond quickly, depends on real-world driving, not a fantasy measurement.
Their second argument raises some really serious questions about the process itself. The neighbors claim that key public comments were just missing from the official record. A super detailed letter citing specific code violations was allegedly left out. And they point to this huge discrepancy. 64 people said they sent letters, but only 26 of them made it into the final report. You have to ask, was this decision really based on all the facts? Finally, their third argument is just a practical one. They're basically saying, hey, we agree parking is a hazard, but the county's solution doesn't actually solve the problem. Banning guest parking on Townsend is great, but what's to stop renters from just parking one street over on another narrow road? They argue the restriction needs to be bigger to actually work.
And this is where the story of this one house on this one street zooms way out. It becomes a case study for the much larger issues facing not just Santa Cruz County, but communities literally everywhere.
All of a sudden, this one permit forces everyone to confront these huge questions. How do you balance the money from tourism with the quality of life for permanent residents? How many homes can you turn into mini hotels before you make a housing crisis even worse? And does it even make sense to approve permits under old rules when you know that stricter ones are right around the corner? This one case puts all of those tough questions right on the table. And really, that's what this all boils down to, right? In an age where any home can become a potential hotel thanks to the internet, what are the rules of the road? This isn't just a legal question anymore. It's a question about what a neighborhood is even for. And for the residents of Townsend Drive, it's a question they are determined to get an answer to.